Hey, what's up, folks? Welcome to another edition of The Winning Drive. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers, joined by the phenom, the young phenom, lifetime Longhorn CJ Vogel, and the coach, former high school football coach at Brownwood, Vernon, Capel, also Rotan, also was the college football player at Abilene Christian, coached there at multiple stints as well, and also was on the staff at the University of Texas for multiple head coaches. Now you can find his work at ShipleyRanches.com. It's Coach Bob Shipley. He's back with us. What's going on, Coach? We missed you. How's everything going?
Yeah, going good. We unfortunately, my uncle Frank Shipley passed away, 96, almost 97 years old, Lufkin, Texas. Incredible life, good man, last of the Shipleys, last of my dad's family. So anyway, sorry I missed you guys on Thursday, but it's good to be back in the saddle. And all I got to say is go vote. Go vote when it's time to vote.
Look at him preaching the good word already.
We don't have any idea who to vote for, but go vote.
No, hey, Coach, we missed you. We are very sorry for your loss, though, Coach. We always know. Hopefully, it was a celebration of life. But we're sorry for your loss. Glad to have you back with us, CJ Vogel. How's everything going with you, CJ?
Good, Rod. It was a busy week a week ago, but hey, we're cruising on into the beginning of fall camp. Only about 9 days away. Hey, Blake Monroe out here getting the good work done on the baseball side of things as well. Texas just picked up a quick JUCO first baseman, almost a 1,300 OPS in 2024. So we'll dive on into that a little bit later. But
nice,
good news all the way around.
All right, I like that. Okay, we got I got some topics obviously for the guys here on the panel today, but you can always throw your topics out there, your questions, comments. We'll address and answer as many of them as we can. You also can throw out the super chats. They can interrupt the show at any time. They jump to the front of the line. But I do want to start, Coach. Interesting, you bring up voting. I do understand now we don't talk politics on the show, especially, but that was huge news over the weekend. President Biden decided that he was not going to run for re-election. So I do have a kind of a question because there are two Texas teams that have recently visited the White House, Texas rowing and Texas volleyball. Did y'all see that?
I saw the volleyball, yeah.
Yeah, I seen it on their accounts today. And honestly, this is an honest question. I'm serious. No, this is not me trying to take a political jab or anything. Do they get to meet the president?
No,
or is it too much going on?
I don't think the president is. He hasn't been out in public yet.
You know what I mean? That's exactly. That's what I'm like.
Since before the announcement, I was hoping they could at least meet the vice president, but I don't know if they even got to do that, but I'm sure it was a thrill for them anyway to be there. But it sure would be nice to have the president of the United States in the picture with you, or a representative.
Yeah, it's so right. It's so much going on right now. Of course, we're not going to get into it and get to the details. Y'all can discuss it in the chat if y'all want to. But yeah, I just wondered if the ladies, because Texas rowing, I saw a picture with them up there. Obviously, in Texas volleyball, I saw a picture on their social media accounts. Them visiting the White House. So I just wondered, man, with everything going on, did they even have access, like you said, to any high level? Like, what's the highest level official they could meet right now? Because everybody seems to be tending to the crisis and going on.
Well,
so
I guess vice president, and then what? The Speaker of the House, maybe. I don't know.
I don't think I don't know. There's no way she's available either. She's got.
She's out campaigning. I think she's.
Yeah.
It's crazy time. Unfortunately, it's just the way, it's kind of like people that, they had their college, their high school graduation taken away from COVID, and then
oh yeah, you're right.
Some other crazy stuff. Their senior year in college, get it taken away.
No, you're right.
And it just the way it works sometimes, I guess.
No, you're right about that, Coach. Just bad timing for the ladies. Yeah, both of their social media accounts. I saw it for Texas volleyball, Texas rowing. Congrats to them. My man CB, what's up, CB? Thanks for joining us, brother. Always good to see CB out there. One of the more recognizable Longhorns on social media. Man, CB always doing good work. Thank you guys for joining us. Got a lot to get into on the show today. And of course, I see the questions already coming up. So we'll address some of those questions. I got a couple of questions. We know that the all SEC preseason team was announced. You had one. Actually, I take that back. You had two Longhorns that made the first team. You had Kelvin Banks on offense. Then you had Bert Auburn. And I've said this before. I'm cool with Bird Auburn being all SEC. I don't want Bird Auburn to be an All-American. I'm going to come out and straight up, I'm hating on Bird Auburn because if he's an All-American, that means Texas red zone issues still exist. All SEC, all conference, that's all good. If he's All-American, oh, man, we did not cash in the red zone enough, CJ. But here's my question for you guys, starting off. Give me your no-brainer, all right, other than Kelvin Banks and Bird Auburn. Let's say that those two guys end up still making first team SEC, all SEC at the end of the season. Give me the guy that you would put the most money on right now to be all SEC, first team at the end of the season. Put money on. Put your rent on, CJ. You got to put your rent on it. Come on, man.
My rent, I mean, that better pay back a pretty penny if that's the case, Rod. Otherwise, I'll be under the freeway on 35. I'm going CJ Baxter. I like CJ Baxter a lot. I know he was outside of the top 4, the top 6 this year in terms of the preseason first team or second team or third team even. But that's the guy I'm looking at right now, right? When it comes to just the upside that he has in this Texas offense, I like it a lot. The SEC this year, it's a very thin running back room this year, if you will, right? You know, there's not many big-time names coming back. Jarquez Hunter, Montrell Johnson, they rushed for about 800, 900 yards a year ago. Trevor Etienne, now at Georgia, he's expected to put up big numbers. Didn't at Florida in 2023. He actually split reps with Montrell Johnson. So when you look at it from who's going to be the Ollie Gordon, the Quinshon Judkins, you know, the Damian Martinez of the SEC, I would argue there's not one right now, which bodes very well for a guy like CJ Baxter, who doesn't really have that preseason recognition yet outside of the Texas circle to come in and have a big year. Of course, we've also talked it. Sarkisian talks about it all the time. He wants to play complementary football on the offensive side of the football. They're going to run. They're going to pass. They're going to be very balanced, but at the same time, he understands that, hey, we're going to have a 1,000-yard rusher because that's all I've ever done as a play caller at the college level. That's going to be CJ Baxter, and I think he's going to end up in that same conversation as you saw a year ago with Jonathan Brooks at some point this year. It certainly helps that he has his entire offensive line returning ahead of him, and I think that he's going to, you know, kind of grow into that second-year sophomore mold, if you will, understanding when to hit the holes hard, understand when to be patient and to bounce. That's where I'm going, Rod. CJ Baxter.
I like that one. I'm across that. I had 3 of them written down. I'm across CJ Baxter off mine. All right, Coach, who you got?
I crossed him off of mine too. He was my number 1. But I got one on offense. I got one on defense. My number 2 choice on offense has just bumped up to my number 1 choice because of this CJ. I'm going to say Jake Majors.
Okay.
Oh, strong. That's strong, Coach.
Yeah, and you're going and this is really going to surprise you defensively. Andrew Makuba.
I like it.
That's not that surprising to me. Yeah, because he's played in some big games for a big time program. I can see him. I can see him not being fazed by playing in the SEC at all. Like it not being a big deal to him at all. I like that one. That's a good one. I'll go with. There's a couple of that. I'll go with. That's 2. I got 2 that y'all didn't mention. I could go with. And I'm just going to stick to being a DB here. I'm going to go Malik Muhammad. I'm going to go with the young buck. I'm going to go with him. He has got a really good chance. I don't see right now there being a lot of big-time proven commodities at cornerback specifically in the SEC. Of course, there's talent. It's the SEC. But I think Malik Muhammad this year could really take a leap. He had a 20% forced incompletion rate last year. That was 5th among Big 12 corners. I think this year he can solidify himself as being Texas's version of a shutdown corner. I don't know if he'll truly be that, but I do think he can be one of the better corners in the SEC. Can be top 2, top 3. That's what we're talking about, him taking that kind of leap. So if Nick Saban's mentioning you, and Nick Saban mentioned CJ Baxter too. Remember, he said it was the most impressive running back that he saw last season. So Nick Saban was high on CJ Baxter. Nick Saban mentioned the cornerback spot. The only issue personnel-wise that worried him for Texas was the cornerback spot opposite Malik Muhammad, which means he thinks Malik Muhammad is solid. He likes Malik Muhammad. He didn't say both corners. So I'll go with the young buck. I'm really high on him, man. I love his technique coming out. But Jake Majors is a good one, Coach. I don't gonna lie. That was good. He made 3rd team. By the way, they give him some love. He made 3rd team. And I forgot the name of the center. I believe there's Maybe coming from Washington. You know what I'm talking about?
Parker Brailsford is from he's the one from Washington, is now at Alabama.
Yes,
right. He was tremendous a year ago. He's the second team all SEC center at 275 pounds is what they have in that.
That's crazy.
On the Alabama roster right now. That's crazy. He only played at 280 a year ago in Washington. We looked at it like, hey, maybe Tavondre Sweat and Byron Murphy would be able to just manhandle him. I would say that wasn't the case. He can go for a 280-pound guy in the middle of an SEC offensive line. That's for sure.
That's amazing. If he plays like that in the SEC, that would truly be an outlier right there. My man Jedi Master Bevo says Trey Moore will lead the SEC in sacks. If he gets double-digit sacks, then you look at the numbers, CJ. Not many guys have double-digit sacks. If he gets double-digget sacks, there's a good chance he'll lead the SEC. He'll be one of the leaders in the SEC. I went back and looked at the last time Texas had a player with double-digit sacks. You got to go back to 2013. Jackson Jeffcoat, Cedric Reed, two really good pass rushers. Charles Amanda, who almost got there. I think he had 9.5. But, it's been a while. It doesn't happen very often, Coach. Hell, if Trey Moore can do that. Now, we still haven't even established, is Trey Moore going to start? Do we feel strong about that Trey Moore will start, or is it still Barrett Sorrell, Ethan Burke's job initially in that Trey Moore is going to be rotating in with all that group?
It's going to be interesting. I lean yes. I don't think with his production a year ago, 22.5 sacks over the last 2, he had 15 last year. Listen, that's a lot of get off that you're leaving on the sidelines. I know he's going to be on the field for third downs 100%. But we'll see. Yeah, I lean yes.
Good job there, Matthew. Yeah, Coach, that ain't easy. You was coaching there when you had some dynamic pass rushers, guy that could just get after the QB, guys who can get double-digit sacks. Do you think Trey Moore, I mean, he did it at UTSA, there's no doubt, and he's got that kind of ceiling. Hopping into the SEC with this rotation, can you see it? Could you see that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I was there in the room with Cedric Reed and Jackson Jeffcoat, and the things those guys had in common is they were very focused, but they were very long. I mean, those guys were tall, long arms, good reach, arm span, and could really get on the tackles quick, and were strong enough to manhandle. Of course, Jeffcoat was so athletic.
Yeah.
And but anyway, yes, I think he can. I think it's a little too early right now to say that he's going to lead the conference in sacks when he's not even really a starter yet. Certainly, he'll be in the rotation, but by the time conference rolls around, some of the dust should have settled. And I'm with CJ. I think he'll earn his share of snaps.
And this is something that we all should have thought about. My man David Keith Williams always doing a great job contributing to the conversation. He says, additionally, I think both Matthew Golden and Silas Bowden will be all SEC first team returning kicks and punts. That is interesting because that's probably more realistic than any of the options we mentioned, guys. Both of those guys, we know Jeff Banks. He has a great resume when it comes to special teams. He on the 4 acres. He's been fantastic. But you look at Matthew Golden, kickoff return averages last year. First of all, in his career, he's averaging over 31 yards per kickoff return. But last year, 9 kickoff returns, over 35 yards per kickoff return, and 2 touchdowns. Silas Bowden, you go look at his splits last year. I believe he only had 3 punt returns. So you're talking about guys who didn't really have a lot of volume, kickoff return and punt return. But like punt return, you had 3 for 97 yards, 32 yards per kickoff return, and a touchdown. That, David Keith Williams, you might be on the money there. That might be
which begs the question, why did he have only 3? I mean, you had one job, put your best guy on the field. I'd say 33 and average. Yeah, I'd say that's your guy.
Coach, actually, I think, from what I can understand, because I talked to Silas Bowden, and he said but it wasn't his job. The punt returner got hurt. The main punt returner got hurt. They put him in there, and then he did what he did. 3 punt returns for over 30 yards, and then 1 for a touchdown. And then I guess they put the other guy back in there. So what you're saying is, Coach, the other guy would have lost his job?
Yeah, or they stop kicking to him. They're just kicking it out of bounds.
That's true too. Maybe they stopped. I gotta go. I didn't ask him that. Maybe they just stopped kicking to him. I wouldn't kick to either one of them. I wouldn't kick to Matthew Golden or Sauce Golden. So David Keith, that might be the reason you're wrong. Is because they may get one return each, then teams decide, hell no, I'm not kicking them dudes anymore. That's just not smart. Not smart football. Also, David Keith, I think Monty Muhammad and Anthony Hill will be all SEC first team by the end of the season. I also think Devin Campbell will be at least all SEC second team when the season ends. Good conversation there, guys. I appreciate that. Yeah, I do. I think that I like your pick, David Q. Williams, about the punt returns and kick returns. We haven't talked enough about special teams. That was a good one. All right, I want to throw this out there. It's another subject. It's kind of off the rails, but we'll get back talking Texas football in a second, and we'll get to you guys' questions. But you guys remember the Connor Stallions sign stealing scandal? We all remember it very well. Took over college football last season. Gentlemen, Netflix, they've already said, yes, this is breaking news. They've put out a teaser today. They're going to have a Sign Stealer documentary. That's just the name of it. It's called Sign Stealer. It's going to be featuring Connor Stallions, and they're going to do a deep dive into the sign stealing scandal and how it started, how it ended up becoming public and what all went down. And it's going to be from the mouth of Connor Stallions himself, gentlemen. Woo. All right, Coach. Will you watch, Coach? Are you going to watch?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh, is this it? Yeah. Get a taste of it.
Come on. I'm watching that 100%. That's going to be exciting, right?
Yeah.
Surely not throwing people under the bus, is he?
I don't think so. I think he's a Michigan man. Isn't he a Michigan man?
Yeah.
I don't think he's not going to throw his, I don't know. He's not going to throw his program under the bus. I don't think if you're a Michigan man, you're a Harbaugh man. So he's not going to throw Harbaugh under the bus either. So I don't know how truthful he's going to be, but I guess from his own mouth, it'll be, I don't think we've ever heard him speak. So it'll be interesting to hear from Connor Stallions himself.
It will be interesting.
Yeah.
Not only is he a Michigan man, Rod, but wasn't he a military man too? So the whole snitching, I don't know if he'll be snitching all that much, but I want to tell us about the procedures. What was it like when he would go to opposing games, sit there with the camcorder or the phone? What did he actually learn from that? I want to hear about it. I think that's interesting.
Yeah, that's a great point. The process, the method that he used, and the strategy, that would be interesting. Like I wonder if he, used some kind of AI algorithm and stuff once they got the video, or he breaking down the video, old school by hand, and tracking every play, or they, like I said, put it into some type of AI algorithm and have them break it down. He is a military man, so he would know all types of, I'm sure, tricks of the trade, the clandestine trade, if you will. But yeah, I can't wait. I'm going to watch it. I believe it's coming out in August, right before the season, August 27th. Oh, brilliant. Good job. Good job, Netflix. They know we're going to be hungry for some college football. They're going to give us that red meat out there. That would be pretty good. All right, so we'll get back on the rails here. I just want to throw that out there. I did see somebody in the chat. There was a couple of questions I wanted to get to, but this is from Lance Miles. This is a wild chat that I wanted to throw out there. He said, "I know this isn't a dating site, but I need to find me a Longhorn woman. I've dated Red Raiders, Sooners, Cowboys, Bears, Mustangs, and Tigers. Having to start over every August is getting old." Hey, you know what? This is not a dating site, but it is a community. And hey, you know what? If you can get some something going on between you and another member of the community, then good for you. I don't know how many. I know we got some ladies on here. I don't know how many of those ladies are single. I know we got some ladies on here. So
well,
hey, have at it.
I like to tell you, it's if I were you, I'd start with the tailgates. Just start. Put on your best outfit you got. Throw on a little poo-poo juice, and make you smell good. Go hit those tailgates. You may find that chick with a Cadillac or Lincoln or whatever with the horns on the front of it.
Oh, you're talking about fancy boots? You talking about Fancy?
Yeah,
See?
yeah.
Yes. She's great, by the way. I'm a big fan.
Oh, she's married. Okay.
No, she's not married. I don't think she's married. I think she has a boyfriend. I don't know why I know this, but she has a boyfriend. She is not married. Fancy Boots is not.
Well,
not
so
yet.
Saying there's a chance.
There is a chance. No, that's a good point. And you know what? She's got that nice. Yeah, this was a Cadillac. I think it is a Cadillac.
Oh yeah.
With the horns on there. Yeah. You're right.
McConaughey drove it up to game day one time.
Really?
I gotta hit up Fancy Boots and tell her she had a reference on the show today. She will enjoy that, and they want to know if she was single or not. There you go. Hey, if you find some love at On Texas Football, let us know. We'd love for. We might start a little dating segment, a little dating site on the side. Who knows, to get all y'all together. I like that he's dated all types of. How many? Hey, CJ, how many women have you dated from other programs, other colleges? How many?
Not many.
If you around the Big 12, because it seemed like Lance was around the Big 12, man. It seemed like he was in the mall, the Baylor Bears, boom. All the state, at least all the schools in Texas, maybe is where he was going.
That could have been it. Yeah. No, I stay local to Austin, UT. I like that one.
You stay local.
Hey, PJ's smart. He knows that's one less argument they're going to have if he's got a Longhorn.
So, CJ, when you recruit, you don't really go outside of your base area in recruiting. You just stick to.
No, I got a strong pipeline in the city, and we leave it there, right?
All right. Back on the rails. Okay, how about this? Let's thank our sponsor. That'll get us back on the rails. I promise you that. Let's thank our good friends over at South Point for sponsoring the winning drive today. One of our great sponsors. Really appreciate them for being a part of the On Texas football family. So, Texas football fans, you can score an easy extra point this season when you get to the point at South Point Dodge. South Point Dodge has over 600 vehicles in stock right now, including a great selection of Ram 1500s, 2500s, and 3500s. Whatever your truck needs, South Point Dodge is the one-stop shop. So, folks, remember, South Point Dodge also have great deals right now on their 50, 2500s, all marked down with huge savings. So you can get a great deal at South Point Dodge today. You can go check out their inventory in person. Just go off I-35 in South Austin, or you can go to southpointdodge.com. Get to the point at South Point Dodge. South Point Dodge is Austin's automotive everything. That's southpointdodge.com. Go check it out for yourself. And thank you very much to our friends over at South Point Dodge for sponsoring the winning drive and being part of the On Texas football family. All right, a couple other topics I want to bring up with you guys, and then we'll hit some of the questions. Hey, JJ, what's good, brother? Thank you guys for joining us. We appreciate it. I can't believe. Okay, maybe I'm by myself, and I talked to CJ about this, Coach. Doesn't it feel like this offseason went by quicker than other off seasons in recent history here? I feel like this one blew by because we're less than 2 weeks from training camp, guys. Training camp's going to start in less than 2 weeks.
Because our season went longer than it's gone in a long time.
That's part of it. Of it.
What's that, 1 week?
Yeah, and but that means you were really good, and it also means when your team is good, I feel like the off seasons go by quicker. Well, I think when Texas was mediocre, those off seasons go long, man. There's some long off seasons. We're breaking down how bad the team was, every loss. This year, it kind of went by quick, kind of flew by. Yeah, and it was like highlight after highlight. It was the video game cover, and then all the guys being drafted, and Xavier Worthy, and the 40-yard dash, and then I don't know, just felt like a quick offseason. I'm happy that football season is here, but usually it feels like kind of a desert wasteland. That's not the case. So how about this? Give me your top headline, guys. What's the number one thing that you are looking for, that you are giddy about, concerned about, anxious about? All right. Yeah, time flies. We have fun. Where's Mama Vogel at? Mama Vogel. Hey, no. That's no. Mama Vogel is off limits. Lance, stay out there. That's Lance looking for don't mess with Mama Vogel. All right. Let's not do that. All right. She's sacred. All right, here on the channel. But give me the number one thing that you guys are looking for with training camp on the horizon.
To me, it's all about what are those three wide receivers that emerge, right? Mm-hmm. It's been the topic of conversation outside of the defensive line, really, but who's going to be those guys that Texas can plug and play, because they go out and they add 3 via the portal. Ryan Wingo, does Jonte Cook or DeAndre Moore, do they take that leap? You're expecting one of them to at the very least, more so Jonte than DeAndre Moore, though at the same time in the spring, he was looking like he was getting first team run as well. So I don't know. I think you got 6 guys in what's expected to be an expanded circle of trust this year, Rod. But who are those 3 when it's 3rd and 7 and you have to convert? Do we know right away? Is it going to be Isaiah Bond, Matthew Golden, Ryan Wingo? Where does Silas Bolden fit in? I think it's going to be really interesting to see what kind of personnel packages we see immediately with that offense, because, hey, we're not expecting that offense to take a step back, right? We know the speed that they've got. We know the talent that they've got. We're expecting that offense to take a step forward with the offensive line and Quinn Ewers returning. It's all about who are those pieces outside going to be. I think that's the big question for me early on in camp, at least.
Yeah. Going, Coach. What about you?
Yeah, well, I don't want to steal you under, Rod. I know where you're probably going to go, but
no,
I'm just thinking about the development of the secondary, and have we addressed the issues that have plagued us, even through the spring game? The issues that they seem to have. How are those being addressed, and what progress is being made, to make sure that our secondary is not as vulnerable and, giving up the big plays, and so forth, like they've done in the past. I feel like that they've already been addressed, but can we put it into something that's useful? Rod, like you and I talked about on Football Theory, sometimes some guys just have it, some guys don't. They can time the jump and, all that stuff. And some people just aren't good at reacting to the ball in the air and knowing the trajectory and the speed and putting all things in a millisecond. You got to do that as a DB, Rod. You have to know where that ball's going to go, how much further past you it's going to go, what the trajectory is, the speed of the ball, the speed of the receiver, and you're like a calculator computer in about a millisecond, putting all that stuff in to know how to make a play on the ball. And that's something that I don't know how well you can teach it, but I'm looking forward to the secondary and seeing how they progress and make strides on becoming a more solid unit.
Yeah, I like that those things are connected to me. I mean, they're going to be going up against a really deep wide receiver unit, and so they will be tested in practice against that wide receiver unit. And the truth is, they should have advantages because that wide receiver group hadn't really had much chemistry and time to build continuity with Quinn. So I like both of those. I'll throw out there, I want to see the edge rushers. We just talked about it. I mean, we haven't even brought up really Colton Vosick very often, but we loved that we saw him in the spring game. I mean, that makes 4. I mean, you throw the young buck Colin Simmons in there, that makes 5. Hell, man, we got the same issue, first world problems that we got really at wide receivers. Is how are we going to utilize those guys and maximize everybody's reps? Texas hadn't had a stockpile of edge rushers, edge defenders like this in a while. Hell, Mike, we might be talking about last time Coach was here. I mean, Coach was on the 4 days. It might be, and like I said, you had with that group, you had Jackson Jeffcoat and Cedric Reed. I mean, probably behind those guys, you had some really good players. They really hadn't had the edge room stock like this. So I'm looking forward to it. Barron Sorrell is a really good player. Ethan Berg, we don't talk enough about Ethan Berg and Barron Sorrell. We just throw it out there. We don't give them enough props because both of those guys I think are going to take strides and I think are going to take their game to another level. But then you bring in a guy like Trey Moore, who's your best natural pass rusher you've had on 40 acres in some time. So edge room will probably be it for me. But I think we got a lot of things that we can look at. That wide receiver rotation, I think, will be at the top of everybody's list. There's no doubt about that. All right, let's get to a question here, and I'll get to some more topics. We got a couple of questions I want to throw out there. First one is from Mike Bass. Question, Rod, does Sark run similar schemes as most NFL teams, both on offense and defense? Do we deploy a scheme similar to the Tampa 2 or Cover 2 utilizing Anthony Hill's versatility? Scheme-wise, offensively, there is a lot of common threads with the McShanahan tree of offenses, and Sark talks about how he loves to visit, Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay, and he steals ideas and is inspired by them. So conceptually, he has a lot in common with those offenses. West Coast passing game, that's all the Shanahan offenses. He likes the zone blocking scheme that they run, but a lot of pre-snap motion, a lot of condensed, compressed sets, squeeze splits, as Nick Saban called them. That's why he hated going up against Sark. Nobody has more squeeze splits in the NFL than the Shanahan disciples, whether it be talking about Kyle Shanahan, Mike McDaniel with the Miami, whether you're talking about Green Bay, Sean McVay, they all have those really compressed, condensed sets. So that's also something they have in common. A lot of high rates of play action pass. So they have all these conceptual signatures in common. So I'll say the NFL offenses, it's probably most similar to some of those just conceptually. Now, all of those have different variations. They run of 2-back sets. You get that with, with Shano. You get that with Mike McDaniel. But with Sean McVay, you get 11 personnel. So it's probably closer to a Sean McVay or a Matt LaFleur offense. Just in the way he likes to spread them out. But even those offenses, at least Matt LaFleur's, you do have he dabbles in more 12 and more power sets. Sean McVay just loves 11. To CJ's point about, and CJ made a great point about the wide receivers. And in terms of the defense, PK's defense is, and Coach, you probably can go into some more details about it. In terms of the scheme and the philosophy of PK's defense, I think he was really heavily, right now, what he's running now, heavily influenced by Gary Patterson. Gary Patterson comes in as a special assistant, and Texas immediately starts running a ton of quarters coverage, almost probably 50-60% match quarters coverage, which is cover 4. It's a zone that deteriorates into a man coverage once the route combination declares itself by the wide receivers, and you got to read it differently. So they started running a ton of match quarters. Matter of fact, at a top 5 rate in the Power 5. And that was kind of his blueprint to keep everything in front of them. I know, and Sark said, they want to be more of a man coverage team. The thing is, in the NFL, teams are going more zone. People playing more zone now than they've ever played before in the NFL. Actually playing less man than they did. They're actually playing more quarters coverage, 2 deep coverage, keeping a umbrella over the top of the defense. So PK's style right now, at least some of the kind of philosophical ideology that he uses defensively, is a lot of what you see at the NFL level in terms of keeping a canopy over the defense as much as possible. But this year, Johnny Nansen, ladies and gentlemen, Johnny Nansen I think was going to have a heavy influence, just like Gary Patterson had on PK. And Johnny Nansen at Arizona, they ran more cover 3 and single high looks than any team in the Power 5. And I think for Texas, without T'Vondre Sweat and without a Byron Murphy, you're going to need more men in the box because you just got less mass in the box with those human beings. You're going to need more men in the box. So I think, Coach, they'll probably go with some more single high looks just to get an extra defender in the box, especially against a Michigan, against a Georgia, against Kentucky, teams they know they can run power and run it right down your throat.
Yeah, I think Coach Nansen will also bring in even more versatility to our defense. We'll hopefully we'll see some things that for all practical purposes are cutting edge, really, especially for the Southeast, with some of the stuff that they were doing at Arizona. So I look for our defense to be a little more versatile too than it's been. It's going to be interesting to see if we go to a 3D look at times. I'm sure that would be warranted, but I'm just looking forward to the versatility, defensively that Johnny Nance can possibly bring to our defense.
There's no doubt, Coach. When they were at Arizona, they were the most multiple, malleable defense in the country. Week to week, there was always a different base defense they were using. They just in the 2 years there at Arizona, they used base 4-3, a 4-2-5, a 3-4 with a tight nickel flex 3 safety. They ran the Joker with a 5-1 front. They were in a dollar. They ran the quarters and dime. I mean, they ran everything. There wasn't a defense really that Johnny Nansen didn't throw at an opponent at any given time. And I'm with you, Coach. I think you can see more exotic looks. And to Mike Bass's last point about utilizing Ant Hill's versatility, Johnny Nansen might be the perfect guy to come in to help you utilize a movable chess piece like an Anthony Hill. And I've heard you talk about that, CJ, about some of the linebackers in his system and how he used those guys at Arizona. You could see Anthony Hill, actually his sack numbers, pressure numbers go up in this defense with Johnny Nansen's influence.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe that to be the case 100%, right? I've brought up Jacob Manu a few times before, the Arizona middle linebacker a year ago, Rod. 6.5 sacks for a middle linebacker who's only about 5'10", right? He's not a big body. He doesn't have that elite quickness. And yet you see sack numbers that rival some of the best players off the edge in the country. And you start thinking, okay, well, how's that the case? Well, then you go back and you watch the tape and you say, oh, He's running wide open over the middle of that offensive line, or he's coming off the edge. He's scraping, whatever the case may be. He's schemed to get pressure on the quarterback, much like how Sarkisian schemes open his favorite weapon or a tight end over the middle. We see that at times with Johnny Nansen and his middle linebacker. So in the sense that PK has taken bits and pieces from a Gary Patterson before in terms of his coverage in the secondary, I do think that there's reason to think that Anthony Hill might be a little bit more active getting after the quarterback, because that's exactly what Johnny Nansen likes to do. And it's kind of create havoc up in the front, some misdirection, some miscommunication, and then boom, you got Anthony Hill, all 6'3", 230 pounds of him, running right at your quarterback, laying a hit. And we've seen him his freshman year, Rod and Coach. When Anthony Hill hits you, it's not a light tap, right? He's planting some folks in the ground. That's for sure. That's the kind of player that Anthony Hill is. And with that athleticism, again, this was a kid that was running 4.6 laser 40-yard dash as a junior in high school. He's going to be a guy that, with all that force and that mass running at you, it's not going to be a light hit. Those aren't the ones that you want your quarterback taking late in the game, that's for sure. And that's exactly where I see Texas kind of generating some of that extra heat in big situations where we know that opposing quarterbacks are going to be dropping back. I like that to be the case a lot this year.
Nah, good stuff there, CJ. Appreciate that. And thanks for the question, Mike. We appreciate you. Getting back to some of the questions to try to knock some of these out. Vivek says, Coach Rod, at Coach and Rod, I'm assuming, says, I feel Michigan's defense is better than Texas' offense. We might struggle to be cohesive on the road so early on. What's your take? Yeah, I'm worried about that game. I mean, you're on the road. You got the best cornerback in the country you're going up against. He would have been the top corner taken in last year's draft. That's how good Will Johnson is. Imagine Texas' defensive tackle room last season and how good it was. Just transfer that to Michigan. All right, that's the best way to describe it. They got a Tavondre Sweat and they got a Byron Murphy. I'm not joking. They do. They got a guy who'll be drafted in the top 10. They got a guy top 15. They got a guy who's going to be drafted in the second round. That's how that. So they're really good there. And they got a defensive end that's a really good player too. They got a couple of linebackers that will be all conference linebackers. That team on defense is still loaded. I think they're going to be a top 10 defense. They might be a top 5 defense when it's all said and done.
I think that I think you're going to see some fireworks offensively. I think it's going to be obviously a national stage, defending national champions. I think we'll come in with both barrels blazing offensively. I think we'll throw some stuff at Michigan's defense they've never seen us do before, in terms of the passing game and the play action passes and things like that. I just don't think I don't think there's any question. Nobody will argue they've got the best defensive front in the nation next year, and one of the better defenses, as Rod said. So I don't know that you want to just start running CJ Baxter right in the teeth of that defense, But I do think you can open them up, and sometimes people emotionally and mentally kind of abandon the game plan, that they've been drilled on all week long, when the stuff we're doing is not working, and Texas is taking big chunks of yardage. And Sark is certainly capable as a game planner and a play caller of doing that to a team, catching them off guard like that. And that's what I think we need to do in that game early, is show them some stuff they haven't seen yet, throw it at them, and get a lead and get them rattled a little bit, get the big house kind of quieting down a little bit, and then get into a rhythm.
Yeah, Coach, I think what you said there, it kind of sparked a little question I have for you. When you do face, some really talented interior defensive linemen like Kenneth Grant, Mason Graham, the best way to combat that is to not give them an opportunity to be disruptive, right? That would be jab beats. That would be to get outside, some of those outside zones. Is this a game that you might see Jaden Blue with his speed kind of utilizing the edge be a bigger factor? Right? I look back at the Cowboys-Packers playoff game from a year ago, and how did the Green Bay Packers neutralize any threat of Micah Parsons? They ran it right at him with guard tackle pulls, with guard center pulls, any type of pulling guard to go right at Micah Parsons to get him upfield and then just kick him out. With the interior, it's a little different. However, speed neutralizes that, right? So I do wonder if the game plan does change with a Jaden Blue or CJ Baxter running more off tackle than what you would see up the middle with some duo concepts, some gap pulls, whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've always been a big proponent of that, especially if you've got some big old defensive linemen. Run a few plays sideline to sideline. Get those guys breathing hard. That's another way to start forgetting what you were game planned all week because you're more worried about surviving, so you get them out of the game so they can catch your breath. Now you go run at them. Not granted, they're going to have great backups, I'm sure, and they won't have them all out at the same time. But when you do run at them, I don't think I'd run right at them. If it's a guy that's getting upfield, you can trap him or whatever. But I think those guys are well too coached to be able to do that. I say we go at them through the air, throw some wrinkles at them they hadn't seen, shake them up a little bit.
I like that, Coach. And Sark already in his bag. He's working on that right now. What I would do is I like where you're going, CJ. Right? This is what teams did against Texas when Texas had Tavondre Sweat and Byron Murphy. You just stay away from them. Right? You do little half rolls, little bootlegs, like Coach talking about. What did Oklahoma do? Got us going sideline to sideline. You throw in some tempo in there, wear those big guys out a little bit. And if I was Texas, man, listen, there are Texas. I'm not joking. I got to go find the tweet because I used to have it. The record holder, like basically the fastest 4x1 high school track team in Texas, ran faster than the Big Ten champion of their 4x1 team. I'm not making that. That's true. I got to go find it. I got to go. I hit it because it blew my mind. I was like, this crazy. If I'm Sark and I covet speed, right? More than anybody else. I mean, ever since Al Davis, that's what him and Al Davis used to kind of vibe out on. They're addicted to speed. You got one of the fastest offenses in the country. Matter of fact, you got the fastest running back in the country that was clocked last year. You got Amari Niblack now at tight end. And your wide receiver room, even though you lost the fastest human being to ever run the 40-yard dash at the combine, you replaced them with even faster dudes, right? You got more depth of speed. I would blitz them with speed. I'd come up with a package called the Godspeed package. Put Amari Niblack in there at tight end. Put Jaden Blue in there at running back. Put your fastest 3 wide receivers out there. And then I'm with you, Coach. I'd go empty every now and then on them, spread them out. I'd go empty, reload, get them back in the backfield, run to the edges, half rolls, half bootlegs, flood concepts. We're running. Hey, I don't even worried about Will Johnson because we're throwing away from cutting the field in half anyway. I think that's kind of the way to go early. I would spread them out. Let them see your speed. Let them taste that speed. Listen, Michigan, they're awesome. But they're not used to seeing speed like Texas gonna bring to the table. They're just not. They don't see now. They're gonna see it more. They can see more of it now at USC and Oregon and Washington. Some of the Pac-12 influences now in the conference. They'll see more of it. But Big Ten speed is slow. Sorry, it's slow. It's plodding. All right, Texas. I think that's what you do. Blitz them with speed early on offensively. So I like that. I like where y'all are going there. All right. We got and also we didn't mention probably what may be the most important factor in that Michigan game. Wink Martindale, who is now the new DC for Michigan. He's one of the blitz happiest human beings that's ever coached at any level of football. And everybody knows what Wink Martindale is going to do. He's been top 5 in blitz rate every year he's been in the NFL, even last year. Good, bad, Wink Martindale's coming at you. That's another reason to keep that pocket moving. So you can kind of get away from some of that pressure because he is going to bring the pressure with Quinn. And Quinn actually is better throwing outside of the pocket than you think. He's actually had some really good metrics throwing outside the pocket. I'd use that a little bit. Off-platform throws, the way he can throw, I'd use some of that. And that's, by the way, that's something that Texas hadn't really seen a lot of. They don't display that a lot. I think Michigan may be caught off guard by it. All right, getting back to some of the questions here. Good stuff, guys. Let's get to this one. This is a question from Tyler. He says, Rod, I got a question for all of y'all. Do you think our red zone offensive efficiency percentage increases dramatically? Top 10 in the league, or increase a bit, or not at all? It has to get better. It was 90th. It was 90th in red zone offense, 120th CJ and touchdown percentage red zone. So it's got nowhere to go but up, right? Nowhere to go but up.
I would have to think so. I don't think top 10 in the league. That's a special job. That would be an incredible jump from where we saw them in 2023 to now, and that's without returning really of any of your weapons, the playmaking position. So I don't think top 10, but again, I don't think you're going to see anything like 2023 with the amount of talent Texas has. And I think Sarkisian even mentioned it at SEC Media Days. He goes, yeah, I think at some point, I just didn't have a Bijan Robinson anymore. I didn't have a Roshan Johnson. And that's, I think that's pretty telling is at some point, I think he just kind of took for granted what he had in his backfield and said, at the end of the day, if I call a play for 3 yards, I know they're going to get us 5. So let them do the heavy lifting, the dirty work down in the trenches, and we'll reap the benefits there. They didn't have that last year. So it's going to be up to Sarkisian and Quinn Ewers to get more creative this year with that, execution and efficiency this year. I do think it gets better. Top 10, maybe not so much.
Yeah, if Sark, he admitted that it was something that they've emphasized this offseason. Usually when Texas, emphasizes something, that coaches always say you get what you emphasize. When they decide they're going to focus on one particular aspect of a team and of the game, they usually get better in that aspect, whether you're talking about turnovers or sacks or third down defense. And I think red zone offense will improve. I mean, that's, to me, if they get to average, like I said, they're 120th and 90th in touchdown precision in red zone and red zone offense. And it's not that they're bad. It's that they're bad with elite weapons. Like, Sark is a brilliant offensive mind. Quinn Ewers is going to be a first-round pick. The offensive line, you got a first-round top 10 pick on that offensive line, and you got the biggest offensive line in the league. 3 receivers that were drafted. Tight end got drafted. Running back got drafted. There's no reason for you to struggle in the red zone. And yet they did. And so my theory was a post Bijan Rojo hangover. I do think that applies, but that may be the reason. And just because, obviously you found out why you struggle still doesn't make an excuse for you to next year to lose games because of Texas red zone offense. So I think they will get better because Sark's going to focus on it. My thought process, use more pony package in the red zone. It'll help. Just throwing it out there. I think it'll help. Getting back to the questions here. This comes from the Nick Turn. I like that. Is the pitch to Michael Terry to have a similar role as Travis Hunter's role? Let him play both ways till he finds his lane. Coach, I want to get your thoughts too, because you around there. You've been on the 40 acres and seen some really athletic recruits. Is there anybody Texas recruited in the past that could have done what Travis Hunter is doing?
Maybe Ramon Taylor.
Oh, nice.
Probably the best athlete I've ever seen.
That's good.
In my days. He could have helped the basketball team too. In fact, I was the AD at Belton, and they still telling stories about people would come and the gym would be completely packed for pregame warm-up. And it was RT's dunking, all the different dunking. And then as soon as the refs came in, the gym was half full, Everybody left, the show was over.
That is crazy.
But I think Michael Terry is obviously an incredible talent, NFL talent for sure, no doubt. They talked a lot about that on Coffee and Football this morning. I think, but it's very, very, very difficult to play both ways. You know that. I mean, it's just Travis Hunter is a freak. He's a rare find. I don't know that Michael Terry is on that level, although he's certainly has the opportunity to be one of the best players, certainly on the team, and maybe to come through here, in a while if they can ever figure out the position thing for him.
Yeah, your Ramon Taylor stories. He's still a great athlete. I don't know how long ago this was. This had to be maybe 5-6 years ago. I hosted or emceed a Ramon Taylor celebrity kickball game, and he was dunking, Coach. Like even then, he was. I don't even know how old he was. He looked. He didn't have all the hair up top. You know what I mean? He wasn't cut. That's some old man love handles, dad bod coming in. He was out there dunking. He was out there dunking. Like dunking.
He's still competing. At least last year, I think, on a national level at 7-on-7.
He was coaching too. I know he was coaching.
Yeah, he's coaching at Martin.
Yeah. No, good for him, man. He's seen that found his way, so I'm happy for him. But yeah, that's a good one, Coach. That's a good one about elite. Yeah, that's a great one. Probably the one that I knew. Nathan Vasher probably, because Nathan Vasher was a great athlete when he came in. Man, he played both ways. He was a wide out when he came in. He was a great punt returner. Guy just could do anything on the damn football field. I was always jealous of guys like that. CJ, what are your thoughts though of Michael Terry and the role that Sark? How they pitching? How they pitching it to him? What's the pitch to Michael Terry for Texas?
Yeah, it's interesting, right? That was the big question with Texas. Is he a linebacker? Is he a tight end? Is he a wide receiver? Is he a running back? Who knows? I think right now it's kind of pivoted a little bit with Texas and Michael Terry to say, hey, we'll figure it out when you get to campus. Like, just consider us, basically, right? That's kind of the message that we're seeing Texas approach Michael Terry with. What does that mean? I think long-term he's a kind of a H tight end, if you will. I think that body's going to get up to about 240 pounds, and that speed will remain the case. I think he's got 10.8, 10.7 speed on him already. So it's pretty impressive at 215, 220 pounds. I do think when it comes to Michael Terry, I don't think you see him play both sides once he gets to college. I think in the spring they're saying, hey, we're going to start you out at linebacker or wide receiver or tight end, and you're just going to see him specialize wherever they end up putting him. I don't think you see him play both ways. It takes a really, really impressive athlete like a Travis Hunter to do just that. Not saying Michael Terry isn't. He's got 5 stars by his name to begin with. But I think Texas is going to want to get the most out of him at one position versus kind of splitting those reps, splitting that time at 2 different spots across the field.
No, that's a good point. So yeah, not both sides of the ball, but the pitch could definitely be to be a multiple chess piece on offense. Okay, maybe I'm off here, guys, but I would like to pitch to him that you could be a modern, better Kyle Juszczyk. Essentially, you could be tight end, H-back, fullback if needed, but Kyle Juszczyk doesn't really play fullback. They put him back there as a tailback more than they put him back there as an actual fullback. He's out there in the slot. He's out there the H-back. He's flex. Sometimes he's out wide. He's just a weapon. They're just trying to hunt matchups with this dude. And if I'm sorry, I'm pitching that. Like, dude, I'll put you everywhere. I've been trying to play more of this pony package anyway, and you'd be perfect for my Kyle Juszczyk type figure. And by the way, I will also pitch the young man. There are more and more teams in the NFL running that Shanahan scheme, and they're running it with 2 backs. Bobby Slowik in H-Town, Matt LaFleur in Green Bay like to keep 2 backs and run the pony package. We know Mike McDaniel and Shano are running it a ton too. More and more teams just using it, and you could be one of those types of unique weapons. And listen, if all else fails, you're a tight end. You're a great tight end if all this fails. But I can make you unique. I can make you a lethal weapon and not a common one.
CJ, isn't Arkansas recruiting him as a running back?
Nebraska was.
Yeah.
Nebraska was. Oregon did as well. Nebraska kind of pivoted since then to be more wide receiver, but when you watch Alamo Heights and they need a big play, they line him up at quarterback, wildcat quarterback, running back, tight end, wide receiver, wherever he's at, that's where the ball is going. It feels like when they need a big play, right? Sometimes he's used in a decoy in a sense that way, but more times than not, you see him lined up in the backfield itself. I think he wants to play wide receiver at the next level. So opportunities and options are pretty wide open when it comes to Michael Terry and what he suits best for at the next level.
Yeah, I mean, if I see the wide receivers making the money they are now, you got 4 wide receivers making 30 plus mil a year. CD's about to add to that. Jamar Chase is about to add to that. Brandon Ayuk probably about to add to that. By the end of this offseason, about to start the season, you could have as many as 7 wide receivers making $30+ million a year, guys. No other position other than quarterback can claim that. That's probably why the young man wants to play wide receiver, and I ain't mad at him. Okay, I got a question here for you guys. I got a question for you, CJ. How about this one? And I want to get coaches' thoughts on this too. Is it more difficult these days, new landscape of college football, transfer portal, and, of course, NIL taken into account? Is it more difficult to recruit kids out of high school or to re-recruit and keep the kids you have on the roster from the transfer portal? Which one's more difficult now, CJ?
Ooh, to keep them out of the transfer portal or to
just
acquire them?
re-recruit and keep them. Yeah, when they obviously get into the transfer portal and go make NIL. I mean, which one is tougher, to re-recruit your own guys if they're thinking about leaving, or to actually recruit the guys out of high school who have all the options in the world?
Yeah, I think it's still tougher out of high school because you're still fighting not only just the idea of the unknown of how will you fit at the University of Texas or elsewhere, but you're fighting off everyone else and their own pitches and recruitments of these kids, right? If you're still trying to re-recruit these kids that were rumored to be departing from your program in the offseason, at least they have an idea of what it's like to play football at Texas. They have an understanding of what the coaches are like, what going to school is like, what the city, what the environment around campus is like. You can then pitch corrections or changes or whatever might be the case to resolve what other uncertainties remain with that prospect. With high school kids, everything's brand new. They haven't been to college before. They're not yet understanding what it's like. So everybody's pitching them the best parts of their program, and it's all sounding great there. I look at it that high school, winning kids out of high school, it's still the crown jewel. You still want these kids to be in your program for 4 years, 3 years at the least, right? You want them to develop right away with your strength coach and get them into the body that you envisioned when you were recruiting for them originally. I think you want to win these recruitments out of high school. Obviously, the portal is great. You see guys like Trey Moore and Andrew Makuba, guys from the area, return home to come compete and play for Texas. That's great, but you want them long-term out of high school.
Yeah. No, it's good stuff. I was just curious, a random question that I was actually curious about. Good stuff there, CJ. All right, another question here. Jedi Master Bevo, this is from Ray earlier, and we said we'd address it. So, CJ, since you're already addressing it, I want you to get to this one too. CJ, what can you tell us about the new baseball portal commit from Indiana State?
Yeah. Jared Spencer, he committed very quietly, I believe, last night. Really late in the night, 16 appearances last season, 9 starts. So we'll see whether or not he ends up being a weekend guy, a Tuesday night guy, or someone that comes out of the bullpen. What's really, really impressive for him is he's a big strikeout guy, and that's great. 72 strikeouts in 53 innings. However, he runs up his pitch count quite a bit. He also walks quite a bit, 33 walks in 53 innings. So if you can get those walk numbers down, you got a guy that has elite stuff to get batters out without the ball being put in play. So I see the back end of the rotation ability for him. At the same time, you got to prove that you won't, allow a bad situation to become worse by walks and hits. He had a 1.4 whip, so not great. However, the strike zone is something that he finds often when in terms of striking kids out. You absolutely take those guys. Real quick as well, Texas just earned a quick commitment from Northwest Florida State College. That's Jack Stewart, a first baseman, had a 1,300 OPS. That's incredible. Led all of JUCO baseball in 2024 with a 538 on base percentage. Very, very good. He's had 16 more walks than strikeouts in 2024. Also hit 15 homers. So that's a kid that can swing the bat, take some pitches, work the pitch count, and get on base. You take that type of hitter every single time. He looks like he's going to be your first baseman in 2025. Question now becomes, who's your third baseman? Is it Casey Borba? Is it Adrian Rodriguez? Regardless, Texas has a lot of talent right now. Now up to, I believe, 10 portal arms, and 3 portal bats. So they've put in the work. And again, Rod, coach, looking back to what Coach Flood, Coach Sarkisian did at Texas with the offensive line, they said, this is not where we want it to be. We got to completely reshape this room at the moment. And they've done just that.
Yeah, nice update there, CJ. Appreciate that. All right, here's a subject I want to get you guys' thoughts on. Peter Burns, who works for SEC Network, does a great job. He helped host the pregame for Texas spring game, and he had the comment that Texas, to him, looked like Georgia in the last 3 years. He said the Texas right now looks like Georgia in 2021, 22, and 23. Like he said, they're big, fast, just really impressive overall. So he likes Texas. So he's not hating on Texas. But he recently said this on his on the college sports Sirius XM podcast. He said Texas quote, they're going to have as big of a bullseye on their backs as anybody in college football has had over the last 2 decades. Agree or disagree, Coach? Texas right now, going into the SEC, will have as big of a bullseye on their back, I mean, everybody coming for them, as any team's had in the last 2 decades. That means Nick Saban's group, the Kirby Smart recently, LSU and the Joe Burrow crew, everybody wanted a piece of, and they started swagging their way around college football. Is this, you believe what Peter Burns has to say about the target on Texas' back?
Well, yes, I do. The last team I can remember that had everybody wanting to beat them was USC, back in.
That's a good one.
Back in Pete Carroll's day when we upset them in the national championship in 2005. But back in the day, everybody had Miami in the bullseye, but hardly anybody could beat them, because they were the first ones really celebrating, and having fun while they were playing football and making a lot of people look really bad, including the University of Texas in the Cotton Bowl in 90. I don't remember what year that was, but woo, they beat the dog out of us.
Yeah.
And everybody, but nobody could do anything about it. But I cannot remember a team since USC, and maybe that's just because we're here and we're reading all the stuff. But I don't think there's been one in over 20 years.
Yeah.
Well,
that's why I bring up Peter Burns, because he's on the outside looking in. He has great insight because he gets to see a lot of these teams. And like I said, he's not a Texas hater, but he's saying, and his reasoning, because I went and listened to it, essentially, CJ, what he is saying is that the teams in the SEC, just because of they feel like Texas is going to enter the SEC with this air of superiority, of elitism, which, it's called confidence, and we got a lot of it. It's called swagger. Texas has a lot of it, but he thinks that the teams in the SEC right now, they are making it almost their mission to make sure that Texas does not come into the SEC and run the SEC. As Nick Saban said, they're not going to come into the SEC and run the SEC, even though he was speaking administratively. Some people are taking that literally.
Yeah.
And I think that's what Peter Burns is saying.
Well, it certainly helps that, one, for the last decade plus, right, Texas and Texas haters have loved to mention that Texas wins the offseason, right? What do we do every time around this year? Well, folks build up Texas. And then what do you see around week 8? Well, it's Texas not necessarily living up to those expectations that were set in the spring, the summer, and right around now when fall camp starts up. What did we see last year? Well, Texas did, right? They won the Big 12. They entered the final 4-team playoff. They exceeded those expectations. They got to where they were supposed to be to enter the SEC, in which you're now the number 2 team, preseason projected. There's going to be a lot of heightened expectations coming into the season. And of course, teams are going to want to knock off Texas for that reason, for the other reason, in the sense that they're the new kids on the block. And also because they got the big Longhorn logo and they're very recognizable in the world of college football. That's absolutely going to be the case. Combine all of them, and absolutely Peter Burns has a big point right there, Rod, with folks aren't going to be very happy to see Texas in the SEC. I think a lot of folks were very happy to see Texas depart from the Big 12, right? But now you have to go prove that you belong here and that you're not going to be a team that gets kind of pushed over like a Texas A&M or Missouri whenever they join the SEC, right? So you got to go earn your keep in the new conference, the best conference in all of college football. Texas is primed to do so this year. Now it's all about making sure that they execute on the field.
Yeah, and that I think one of their the points they were making in the conversation was that they're going to get everybody's best shot. And I was like, that's crazy, because that's literally what Texas says all the time in the Big 12. They get everybody's best shot, which they do. I just think that's the logo. The logo's going to bring out the best in everybody. Just be prepared. That's why it ain't for everybody. They hate us because they ain't us. It's all good. So I agree with them, by the way. And by the way, Sark's an SEC guy, so he knows that. He's got some SEC ties, so he knows that those guys are going to be coming for him and that they got the bullseye on him. And the way that he spoke at SEC Media Days, it kind of lets me know that he's on to him and that he's up to the challenge, the way that he spoke. Okay, I know we're getting close to the end of it here, so we'll try to answer a couple of more questions. I got another topic I want to bring up. Speaking of Steve Sarkisian, I saw at 247 Sports, they actually did a breakdown of coaches and the best coaches versus in their records versus top 25 opponents. And the reason I wanted to bring it up is because I went and looked at Sark's record versus top 25 opponents, and I was a bit surprised. Now we know Sark's done a great job of rebuilding a couple of programs, so that's a part of it. But some of the more impressive coaches and their record versus top 25 opponents, guys, Kirby Smart's 73% winning percentage versus top 25 opponents.
Pretty good.
Yeah, damn good. Ryan Day's at 69%. Dabo Swinney's at 61.9%. Kalen DeBoer is actually at 85% win percentage versus top 25 teams. 85%, coach. Crazy. Brian Kelly's at 50%. Dan Lanning's at 58%. Not very much sample size. They're only 12 games. Lincoln Riley is at 58.6%. Like I said, Dabo Swinney's at 61. So these are the best coaches in college football, especially going up against elite competition. Sark, and this is something that'll be tested. I don't know how many games you guys think they'll play against ranked opponents this year. Michigan, Georgia, Oklahoma. Oklahoma will be ranked by then. They still be ranked,
Oklahoma
right?
will be ranked.
Oklahoma will be ranked. That's 3.
It'll be 4.
Okay, maybe 4. All right, there you go.
I think Texas A&M and Oklahoma will both be ranked this year.
Okay.
We'll see. Well, we'll see if A&M is ranked at the final
end of the year.
But
yeah, at least 3.
I do believe that they're talented enough. Yeah.
Yeah. So Sark's record against top 25 teams, 7-19, 26%, right under 27% win percentage. That these are the little, I think, parts of Sark's resume that are starting to change. Like the narrative is shifting, and this will be another year where I think for Sark, whether you're talking about record in one-score games, because I've seen these before, right? And even in Texas, right? Sark's record in one-score games, it was 3-2 last year, 2-5 before that, 2-5 before that at Texas. That's going to be tested in this year on the schedule. The record we talked about versus top 25 teams, you'll probably have 3 or 4 opportunities there. So I just think some of these kind of negative narratives, and they're facts, so they're real, but about Sark, I think last year was a big year for him to prove a lot of the naysayers wrong, to win over a lot of folks who may have been on the fence about Sark. And I think this is another big year for him too, to really establish himself as one of the elite coaches in college football. But that's something else that I think he's got to figure out, how to be a chess master against the best coaches in college football. That's what the top 25 is all about. And that certainly will be the case against Kirby Smart. Did it last year against Nick Saban. Kalen DeBoer is another one of those guys, considered great coaches. And I think Sark this year, that'll be Kirby Smart that's the barometer. And we'll see if Sark has his guys ready to play for that game. But really interested to see if Sark can flip that narrative this year in terms of his record versus top 25. I didn't realize it was that underwhelming.
Yeah, and I mean, what does that matter though, right? We saw Sarkisian, last year against Georgia, against Alabama, Oklahoma, and Washington. What can you take away from that game? Well, Texas won one of them on the road, and they were in a position late in the game to win the other 2. So he can compete with teams similar talent to his. You'd like him to obviously have had better results against Washington and Oklahoma. But what am I to take away from a game that was 7 years ago when he was at a completely different program against a completely different style of football than he's going to be playing this year, right? It's that same conversation of, well, when Team A plays Team B, Team A has a 8-2 record, right? Well, those games date back to 1940. So why do I care what those records are of past indications? It's not going to give me any type of clue of what those teams will play like on the field this year with this roster in this situation and this style of play with this coaching staff, right? I always laugh at those kind of situations, Rod, because it doesn't give you the full picture of what's to come in this current season, right? Or what's this current game going to be looking like. Now, if you told me Sarkisian in the last 3 years is 4-13 against teams that are predominantly cover 3 high look, and they play that kind of situational defense against his offense, yeah, that absolutely makes sense, because that tells me that consistent theme of, oh, that type of look will give Sarkisian fits rather than, oh, Sarkisian in the top 25 in his coaching career, which is what, 12 years deep now, dating back to USC and Washington and everywhere else he's been. Well, that, again, it kind of leaves it up to question, because there's so many variables that have changed all throughout the college football landscape, Sarkisian, and obviously the rosters in which he's working with.
No, you're right about that. Yeah, no, I agree with you. But it's definitely something you're gonna hear more of. Just throwing it out there.
Absolutely.
Guys. You're gonna hear a lot about it. So, and I think my man CJ just probably summed it up pretty well there. Jay Lee has a super chat. Thank you very much, Jay Lee. We appreciate the super chat. Is this the hardest schedule Georgia has played in years? It is a tough schedule.
Absolutely.
Georgia doesn't have many weaknesses, though. It's a really hard schedule, but Georgia doesn't have a real weakness as a team. That's how good they are. But yeah, CJ, there's no doubt about it. Georgia's schedule is one of the toughest in the country.
Yeah, I mean, you start with Clemson, you go on the road to Tuscaloosa, you play Texas on the road. I don't think Georgia's ever had 3 games as tough as those 3 in a long time. You also have to play Ole Miss on the road, Tennessee at home. So that's 5 teams where, if you look back at Georgia's 2023 roster or schedule, which many were claiming might have been one of the easier schedules in all of the country, it's absolutely going to be a bit of a difference. That's why, Rod and Coach, I don't see a SEC team going undefeated this year, right? You don't see teams go undefeated all too often in the regular season in the NFL. Why is that? Because, well, there just aren't as many, cupcakes, right? You got to play teams of similar caliber. Adding Texas and Oklahoma to the SEC right now, it evens out the playing field in terms of the overall top to bottom, kind of caliber of team that you'll be playing. It's a gauntlet, across the board in terms of teams that you'll be facing week in and week out. To go undefeated, you're going to have, 1, either a very special quarterback, 2, a very special team, and 3, a very good head coach. To have all 3, it's going to take a whole lot of things to go right in that regard. You're not going to see a TCU 2023 season or 2022 fluke season kind of occur the way that you look at this SEC scheduling lineup across the board in my eyes.
Yep, I agree with that. I don't think you're going to have an undefeated team in the SEC. Coach, what are your thoughts? I mean, Georgia's loaded. They're loaded. So if anybody can handle that schedule, they can, but they got to play Clemson. They got to play Texas. Got to play Alabama, too, in there. I mean, they got to play Ole Miss. So it's going to be another, I think, hellacious game for them.
It's going to be – I mean, you hate to use the cliche of stay healthy, but it's going to be really hard to stay healthy with that schedule. And I do you guys know, maybe we ought to talk about this sometime. How do they pick? How do they schedule? How does the SEC schedule?
That's a great question. I got to go to some details.
Question.
Yeah, I don't know, because who would want to know that is like Oklahoma.
You look at some schedules, and man, some guys got almost a free pass all the way through. Then you look at others and you go, golly, murder in a row.
Texas didn't get a free pass, but Texas has a very favorable schedule. If you go look at the SEC media poll and predicted order of where the teams are going to finish, if you look at the top 8 teams that predicted to finish in the top 8 in the SEC, Texas plays 2 of the top 8 teams, and they play 6 of the bottom 8 teams.
Yeah.
So Texas has a pretty favorable schedule when you look at it. Yeah, I mean, Texas plays Georgia, and they got to play Oklahoma, and the top of that media poll. But then at the bottom of it, they got to play the Aggies. They got to play Kentucky. They got to play Florida. They got to play the bottom 3, Arkansas, Mississippi State, and Vanderbilt. That's favorable. And there's nothing in the SEC is easy, but it's certainly favorable. No doubt about that. All right.
Yeah,
I know we can,
the folks at A&M certainly think we got an easy schedule. Hey, but I want to bring one thing back. Every time you talk about Michigan defensive coordinator, Wink Martindale, I think about this goofy TV host that used to host a show called Tic Tac Doe. Tic Tac Doe, Wink Martindale.
Yeah,
right. So I picture this dude on the sidelines, in Michigan, wearing this cheesy looking suit and got this real skinny microphone, like the TV host back in the 70s had, Let's call a blitz. Yeah,
No.
there he is. Look at
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
That's when I Wink Martindale. That's some guy that comes to mind every time you talk about a defensive coordinator that loves to blitz. I can just hit. What's behind this call? Call number 1, call number 2, or call number 3.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, you're right. Because I've Googled that before, and that's guy's code. Then I got to type in John, a Wink Martindale coach, and then I get the Wink Martindale I want. But you're right. That's old school. I don't know why Wink Martindale took that nickname as a football coach. You probably should.
Yeah, somebody had a sense of humor, I guess. Anyway,
exactly.
didn't mean to derail the show. I know you're trying to wrap it up anyway.
No, that's a good point, Coach, about the Wink Martin. I really experienced that when I Googled them, so I know exactly what you're talking about. All right, before we wrap things up, let's tell about another fantastic sponsor of part of the On Texas football family, and also a sponsor of the Winning Drive. We appreciate them. BetterHelp, folks. This episode of On Texas Football is brought to you by the folks at BetterHelp. There are a lot of helpful apps out there, but it would be difficult for any of them to be more useful than BetterHelp.com. BetterHelp is an app that helps those in need find the help they deserve. Maybe you're having personal issues that you just can't figure out. Maybe you get caught up in comparing yourself to others and to someone else. Maybe you've experienced major trauma. Whatever the case may be, if you're considering beginning therapy as an option, you'll want to check out BetterHelp.com. BetterHelp is entirely online. It's designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. So no matter what your own previous experience is with therapy, check out BetterHelp.com today. That's BetterHelp.com today. Stop comparing yourself with others. Start doing something about it. Visit BetterHelp.com/OnTexas today. That's BetterHelp.com/OnTexas today to get 10% off your first month with BetterHelp. That's BetterHelp, HELP, BetterHelp.com/OnTexas. We appreciate BetterHelp for sponsoring this episode of the Winning Drive. So thank you very much to our new sponsor, BetterHelp. That's BetterHelp.com/OnTexas. All right, gentlemen, we're coming to the end of our live stream. I do want to thank our fantastic audience, and thank you guys for all the questions and super chats. If we couldn't address the questions, please bring them back to us tomorrow. We'll try to hit as many of them as we can. Thank you to Matthew behind the scenes, always doing a great job. He is the real MVP. Tomorrow, don't forget, you got Coffee and Football in the morning starting at 8 a.m. We'll have our Tuesday night live stream tomorrow at 7 p.m. Me and CJ will be on that one with you. So we got you covered, all things on Texas football. For the coach, Bob Shipley, for myself, for CJ Vogel, the young phenom, and for our sponsors, thank you very much to BetterHelp. That's BetterHelp.com/OnTexas. And thank you very much to South Point Dodge for sponsoring the Winning Drive as well. Until next time, same channel. Hook 'em horns.